And we are back. Welcome to the PT Graduate Podcast. And today my guest is a man who we have chatted to before, but not on the podcast, more on the Facebook page when we were running lives. And it was great to chat to him last time. Both myself and Matt were sitting virtually opposite him in the last conversation. And it was a really popular one. There were lots of views. Facebook got hit quite hard because of the things that we talked about. It must have resonated with people, and that's always stuck in the back of my mind, that I want to kind of find a version 2 where we can continue that conversation. I think more than ever, with the country going in and out of lockdowns, obviously Auckland is being hit a little bit harder than the rest of the country. We're finding our industry, and obviously lots of others, are being challenged because of that. And that can have an impact on our mental health. It can have an impact on our physical health, our well-being, the family around us, and so on. So without further ado, let me welcome Mr. Stefan Ryan. Welcome, Stefan. It is great to see you again.
Hey, buddy. It's always a pleasure to have a chat with you, whether we're recording it or not. Yeah. I've always got time for a yarn, mate.
I know, and I really appreciate you carving out a bit of time today to be able to sit down again and have another chat and get it recorded and transferred through to the podcast this time, rather than just a Facebook Live. So it should have a wider audience and hopefully some appreciative ears who may be keen to hear your message and some of the things you talked about last time, but maybe some different things as well, possibly this time. I guess for those who didn't hear that first conversation and may not know you, do you want to do a bit of an intro and how you got to, obviously how we met on a course together, and where you're at now, sort of thing?
Yeah, well, how long have we got, mate?
As long as you want.
Well, if I remember last time, we had planned to do one, and I took up so much time answering your first question that we had to go round 2.
Yeah, so, that's right.
Yeah, I'll be careful. I'll keep it
Go.
Yeah, I guess we keep coming back to conversations regarding mental health with me, because I think probably I made an agreement with myself quite a long time ago that, if you're going to experience some form of pain or suffering, it may as well be worth something.
Right.
I didn't want the experiences that I'd had with drug and alcohol addiction, with being overweight for a large portion of my life, with attempting suicide a couple of times. But all these things layered on top of each other. I experienced those things anyway. So to make them worth something, I made an agreement with myself that if there was anything that I'd learned out of that could potentially be valuable, even if only for one person, then I would have these conversations. It's awesome. It's not a comfortable place for me.
Okay, all right.
to be center of attention or in front of a camera, but again, I made that agreement with myself, so I'm willing to step past that. So
brilliant.
I guess that's really my history. Is I was a drug addict, I was an alcoholic. I've now been on the 24th of October this year will be 22 years sober.
Wow.
I was 147 kilos. I lost 63 kilos. That's when I became interested in health and fitness, and which I guess led to us connecting a little bit down the track. Then I had a spinal injury, which needed surgery, and I put on a whole lot of weight after that surgery, and not being able to function as I would like to, so that was still ongoing. I got held up at work one day and had a knife to my throat while some guys beat me with bats. And there's been some stuff. Depression's been an ongoing theme. Anxiety is something that I notice. I don't suffer anxiety like other people that I've connected with, but it's certainly an underlying tone that's always there. Yeah, so I guess, that was some of the stuff that I talked about last time that I felt gave me some kind of authority to speak on this. I'm not, clinically qualified as a psychologist, but I'm just here on the ground with all the other people fighting my way through the weeds.
Yeah, well, I think, we're all experts in our own lives. So, I think the things that you touched on a second ago, are very real, and they're things that, other people may be struggling through themselves or have, elements of it on and off. I think, it's fair to say none of us will go through life without any mental health challenges. Depends on how deep and how long, I guess, they last. But if we've got strategies and we've got support and we've got an awareness of, what we might need to do to help ourselves, or at least ask for help, then I think there's possibilities to improve the situation for ourselves and those around us at any given time. And I think the sort of the desire to get back in contact with you and chat again was because of the lockdowns and the impact that it's having, and it's having obviously on our industry. This is specifically about health and fitness, but people in general, and those people in general are the people that we serve when we're working with our clients. So I guess it's a useful thing to kind of explore a little bit again, because we've been through a number of lockdowns now, obviously 2 huge ones and a couple of little ones, and as I said before we came on, my experience or my interpretation of this one, and sort of looking back at the others, was that emotionally they are cumulative. By going through each one, you don't start back at zero. You sort of, and you had a good spin on that, which I'd be keen to hear again now we're recording, is we don't start back at zero, and we've got that experience from the previous lockdowns, and that can be challenging. Obviously, the biggest challenge is that we can't make an income until we're back at level 2, but that doesn't necessarily mean the mental challenges don't stop just when we get to level 2 and start working again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we spoke, like you said, we spoke a little bit before we started recording about it, and my theory was that when we had the first lockdown, it was all very novel. It's a new thing. Novelty doesn't have to be a good thing, but novel as a new, something that we haven't experienced before. So it was something new. We didn't really know what to expect. We went all through it. Everything was a surprise as we went along. New updates from the government, all this sort of stuff. It's all new. We're all sort of taking it in as we go. Then it finished, and we thought, okay, wow, that was a really strange time in history, but here we go. We're back to work. We're back to normal, whatever what that was at the time.
Yeah.
But then when there starts to be some inkling that there might be a second one, like you say, you're not starting back at zero, because now we kind of know what the first one was like. We know a little bit about what to expect, so we start layering anxiety and some of those maybe negative feelings that we had from the first one. We can actually start layering those on before the second one even starts, because we have some understanding of what those are like. So in that sense, we're inflating it to be maybe a little bit worse.
Yeah.
I don't want to play it down, because it's been really hard for a lot of people, but we can start making it worse than it is before it's actually started, because of the understanding we have from the first round. But it's also the understanding that now that it's happening a second time, maybe after the first one, we didn't know that there was an option for there to be more. Now that there's been a second, now it's on the table that, hey, this could happen again, and it could happen a third time. What happens if it happens next year? Like, how many times can we experience this and come out the other side and go, wow, that was rough, but here we go again. So I think that was where my thoughts around that are at the moment.
I think that that makes sense. I think we're kind of on the same page with that. I like the explanation. So going back to for a moment, going back to 147 Fitness, obviously that was the fitness business that you were running when you had less on your plate and you were able to live the passion a little bit. And for those who don't know, you're still up in, are you still up in Whangarei?
Yep, I am. And it's interesting that you say that I had less on my plate. I actually had more.
Oh, okay.
At the moment, I mean, fortunately, we're in level 2 here where I am.
Yeah.
So, and we have been, we've been able to work for a little bit longer than you guys.
Yeah.
Having said that, it's interesting. You know, we were able to go back to work quicker, but we still couldn't get any product because all our products and distribution is, and for a lot of the country, this will be true, is centralized through Auckland. So if Auckland is shut, freight stops. So, I mean, not that it's better or worse. I don't necessarily like the idea of comparison that, you know, oh, we've got it worse, you've got it worse, whatever. I don't like comparison. It's just different set of challenges. But yeah, so now I'm only working 40 hours a week. When I started my PT business, I was managing a 1,000-cow dairy farm working 100 hours a week.
Jeez. Okay.
Just the challenges are different.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, and we spoke before we started that, I had a double hernia surgery 8 years ago, and there were some complications from that surgery that are only just now starting to be addressed. So I had to decide that in order, and I said before we started, to be of service, you have to be fit for service. So I made the hard decision to put a pause on my PT business because it really was a labor of love, not my primary source of income.
Sure.
So I've put down as many things as I could in order to get as healthy as possible first.
Yeah.
Not
Good
easy.
for you. Good for
Not
you.
easy.
Yeah. No, I imagine not. It's obviously a passion. It's something you want to keep in the background and not let go of completely, I'm sure.
100%.
Yeah. So strategies, things that have worked for you, you know, when you've been battling some of the mental stuff, what sort of things have you done to get through? How you talked about making a promise to yourself about making it, you know, having value. And I guess some of that's being able to share that and support others. But I guess some of the things I wanted to dig into today is some of the things that have worked for you so that we can share that and perhaps things that people may not have thought of that can help get through some of those mental challenges that we face as a result of things outside of our control.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's a complicated question because to answer it in such a way that includes everybody is to deny that we're all wildly different.
Yeah.
So I guess all I can really do is lay out the things that have been beneficial for me, and hopefully there'll be some elements in there that people can take for themselves or spin in their own way to make them more relatable to their own experience.
Sure.
And I think that for me, you know, if you haven't identified that there's an issue first, then what are you trying to solve? So having some way, some planned time where you self-audit is really critical. For me, that can be as simple as when I'm on my last call for work for the day and I'm heading home, I drive home with the radio off. So it's a really simple thing, but now all I'm hearing is the sound of the engine and the tires on the road. So you will naturally start to fill in that silence with thought, and over time you start the thought will start to become, it'll start out unconscious, but you'll notice things.
Yeah,
you'll be, geez, I just saw that random thought pop through my head. Now you're conscious. Now you're actively, so where did that thought come from? What does that mean? What's happened today that has put that idea in my head? Now you're just creating some space that otherwise would be wasted. You're driving home anyway. You might as well take, even if if your whole drive home is too hard, 5 minutes, turn the volume down, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you can manage. Because I saw a quote a little while ago, and sadly the person who said it took their own life, but the quote was that in between my ears is a dangerous neighborhood and I shouldn't be left there alone. And that's often how I feel.
Right.
My mind is very, very busy all the time. It's relentless. It doesn't stop. And a lot of that is not good. A lot of it is not good stuff. But if I can almost trick myself into spending a little bit of time with those thoughts in an observing way, rather than feeling like I need to react or judge or have any kind of outcome, just see it.
Yeah.
Just allow yourself to see the things that are happening in your mind. So you start to build this picture of, here are the things that are bothering me, that are troubling, that are a problem. Even write them down. That's another really good thing, because you can revisit those things at another moment in time when maybe you're feeling a little bit different. And see if those things are still true, or if it was just a random passing thing, a thought experiment that popped up. So I think that self-audit, whatever that means to you, is really, really critical. It needs to be something that's prioritized, so you can identify what's going on.
It sounds like you talk about writing them down, and I know that journaling is something that a lot of people do. Is that something you've done yourself at any point, or do?
I go through stages of it. When we often don't react to things until we're forced to. So I will often let things like meditation or journaling, I'll let a lot of those things fall off until I'm forced to address them again, because things have got so bad that I have no option.
Right.
But the only reason that I know that's the case is because of that self-audit.
Yes. Okay. So it comes back to that self-audit, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I guess that sounds like sort of step one to me. You're doing the self-audit, you're giving yourself the time to observe those thoughts, maybe documenting them, and just looking at them from a non-judgmental point of view.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah. What's stage two?
So stage two for me is to put those things into some form of an order of, here's something that's critical, that needs my attention now, and followed by all of the other things that are in your control. Because often we will stress about things that are out of our control. We need to identify what those things are so we can put them down.
I like it.
That for me is stage two, separating the things from I can control and I can't control.
Yeah.
So in a lot of cases for me, 3/4 of the things that are bothering me will be out of my control.
Right.
So immediately I've taken most of the mental load off just by taking a bit of time with myself to figure out what's bouncing around between my ears.
Yeah.
So if we think about, and I kind of talked about it a little bit last time we spoke, was the reticular activating system. It's designed and evolved to identify the things that we tell it are important. So if we're constantly looking at things that are chaos, let's say, so watch the news, watch the Facebook pop-ups, the ads, the people that are ranting about things. If we've got layer upon layer of chaos constantly being our mental nutrition, then we're telling that real base primal evolutionary tool that our body has, that chaos is the thing that we need to be searching for.
Yeah.
I promise you will find it everywhere.
Yes.
And if you understand what that system does in the body, it influences serotonin, it influences noradrenaline, it influences dopamine, it can alter your circadian rhythm. And we know those things are really important. So making a conscious decision to choose the things that you place your attention towards is massive.
That's powerful, isn't it? And for people who may not have come across that, that's the part of your brain that when you buy a red car, you start seeing all the red cars on the road, right?
Because you've told that system that that's important to you.
Yes. Yeah. Whereas you never would have seen them before because you didn't own a red car.
No.
Yeah. It's powerful, isn't it? Especially that interplay between those hormonal systems, and obviously those can have a knock-on effect to our mental health. I love the expression mental nutrition.
Yeah.
It's awesome. That is a great combination of words. And I guess turning off the news and switching the notifications off and making sure that we feed our brains with different nutrition is a really key component to finding that balance, having a healthier mental health.
Yeah, and also understanding that when you say something, people that have been through therapy or therapists will understand this, that if you have some kind of traumatic experience in your life, like say the time that I was held up at work.
Yeah.
My body doesn't know the difference between me being in that experience or me sitting in this chair reliving that experience in my brain. So physiologically, like my hands are shaking now,
right?
Because I'm mentally I'm putting myself back in that experience to remember, like to sort of make this point. Physiologically, my body doesn't know the difference between something that I'm experiencing now or something that I'm thinking about past tense. So if we think about that mental nutrition and that reticular activating system and how it works, and then we watch the news and there's chaos, there's rioting in this country, there's a volcano or an earthquake in this other country, there's all this chaos where we're feeding that new, and I'm not saying that those things aren't terrible, because they are, but physiologically they have an imprint on us, and our body doesn't know the difference between something we're watching and something that we're really experiencing. So our stress responses will kick into gear because it's thinking about survival. It's just like volcano. We're in imminent danger, but we're not. We're sitting on our couch in our lounge watching it on TV. So I think, not to deny those things are real, I have to keep adding that in there because I don't want to seem like I'm not caring about what's going on. But I think we have to be conscious about how much of that information we take in, and even when we take it in. If we're already in a stress state, maybe not a good idea to go and pile more on.
It sounds like, making a conscious effort to filter that nutrition is the next step. I'm kind of, my Crusader brain is step, and that won't work. I know that isn't going to work for everybody, but I'm making notes.
It doesn't work for me because I'm my guardian brain.
Fair enough.
is thinking about it from a different point of view altogether.
No, I like it.
I mean, I think that, to circle it back around to this lockdown experience, that when we, every day there's an update from the government. We're talking about how many cases there are, how many are in the community. It's sort of like a constant barrage of this data. And I think overall we're trying to take in too much data anyway. I don't think we're I don't think we're designed for the amount of information that gets fed into us every day. But I feel like you can watch that information about COVID and then develop sort of there's like an expectancy effect, or like there's some kind of self-fulfilling prophecy that if you talk about it enough, it makes it real. You know, you have to allow for placebo in studies because the brain is that powerful.
Yeah.
People can talk themselves into being sick. People can talk themselves into having pain. I think that's something we need to be wary of, even if it's only personally, and go, yeah, you know, I'm already anxious. Maybe I'm not gonna stress myself out more. I understand these things are happening in the world, and even globally and in my own community, there are things that are happening that aren't great. A lot of those things I can't control. What I can control is how much of it I'm going to take into my little universe, my little piece, and how I'm going to negate the negative effects that are there anyway.
Yeah, I like that. That follows on nicely from the previous point. Preventing that self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. I mean, the brain's that powerful.
It is. You're right. The placebo effect is the perfect example.
Yeah. So feeding our brain just unconsciously swaths of not good information. It has to have a flow-on effect downstream somewhere. It has to.
Yep.
Hormonally, mentally, emotionally, and we know, we spoke about last time, the connection between mental, emotional, physical, and of course spiritual, whatever that means to the individual health. All those things as one. It's nice to, you know, we start these conversations with mental health as being sort of the driver, but we always have to understand that underneath that and attached to that are emotional health, physical health, and spiritual health. They are equal parts of the human organism.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all of them need nourishment. All of them have nutrition of their own kind that we need to make more conscious. Me included. Like, I mean, I talk about these things like I know what I'm doing. Some days I have it right, and some days I don't. Like, I was talking to somebody the other day about my drug and alcohol addiction, and they were saying, you know, you still talk about it nearly 22 years down the road. And I'm like, because every day it's something that I have to work on.
Right.
There's some days I'm just barely hanging on. But the reality is I do.
Yeah.
So every day that there's a success, that's compounding. It also builds a belief that because I did it this day and I was okay, then I can do that again this other day, even if this other day's way harder.
Yeah.
The sort of building on small successes, and we can do that. It's a practice. You don't make a decision and then you're done.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. That's good. In terms of, you know, the nourishment, the nutrition for those other areas, you say obviously it's something you're working on every day. Are there some practices that you're happy to share that allow you to sort of nurture those other areas that sort of help build the whole picture into a better place?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's funny because knowing that we're all different, some of those, like if we think about mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, if we think about those as the 4 quarters of the whole, say, me being a guardian, emotional stuff is a little bit easier for me. I'm a little bit more in tune with that.
Okay.
Mentally, while I'm in tune with it now only because of practice, I don't feel like I have as good a control of it. So that's more more of a struggle.
Yeah.
And physically, that's a bit of a struggle for me too. I'm not naturally, I mean, I'm naturally relatively strong, but it's work for me to go and exercise. I have to,
Sure.
okay, in half an hour, this is what we're doing. And I have to make myself do it.
Okay.
And for some other people, the emotional stuff will be really, really hard. But I think on a real basic level, emotional connection with others can help you identify your emotions personally.
Yeah.
So that can be go for a walk with your kids and have a talk to them about their day and what they feel about what's going on.
Yeah.
So there you're kind of tackling a little bit of the physical and a little bit of the emotional, because you have a real connection with. It doesn't have to be kids if you don't have kids. It can be a partner. It can be a friend. Anybody. You have a connection with that person on an emotional level, and you're also doing something physical. And I also find often when you're going for a walk, you're both facing the same direction, not making eye contact. So that can feel a little bit safer than sitting across from one another, making eye contact. There's nothing else going on. We're just here with our emotions. That can be a little bit scary. For me, I'm all in. That's like perfect. I'm there. But for other people, I'm out. Yeah, exactly. And that's just we're wired differently.
Yeah.
So we can benefit each other by say, you explain to me why you see the world the way you do and what you feel, and I'll share with you the same. And you find that often somewhere in the middle is where you meet.
Sure. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So things like that. Mentally, it's that self audit. That's where the nourishment comes from for me. Taking that time to spend a little bit of time with my thoughts. See what's going on there, and then being conscious about the information that I'm piling in. Emotionally, it's finding some way to connect with somebody else on that level. But also I can connect with myself emotionally on my own as well, only because I'm wired that way. That's going to be harder for some people, but it can be practiced. Physically, just get out and do something. Really, at the end of the day, it sounds so simple and benign, but tell me you don't feel different if you go for a walk on the beach. You hear the ocean, there's sand between your toes. You can do your mental audit while you're there, because you've just got the monotony of the waves. Just go for it. Tell me you don't feel different going for a little bit of walking in some bush somewhere and smelling that damp air of the forest and hearing the trees rustle. Like those things, we know afterwards that we feel better. We're supposed to do those things.
I like it.
Strip out the noise, and just do some fundamental, basic, primal thing, and then you'll notice your mind start to do different things. It'll slow down, it'll calm. A lot of the noise in the periphery will strip away. It's huge. Those things, again, it comes back around to the self-audit though. When you do the self-audit, you'll start to identify the things that you need. But if you don't give yourself time to address what they are, then who knows?
I like
then you're just on a treadmill.
That leaves the spiritual, and again, I guess this is broader than any of the others, isn't it?
It is, and it's probably one of the most triggering as well, because to a lot of people that practice some form of religion, that's what spirituality is to them. To me, not growing up in any form of religion.
Mm.
Spirituality to me is sitting outside on my deck, looking up at the stars in absolute wonder and fascination about the potential of what's out there. There's something there that I don't understand.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is more than me.
Yeah.
And that's spirituality to me.
Cool.
It's this,
That's awesome.
it's this understanding that there's something more out there.
Yeah.
Don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated by it nonetheless.
Does that also come back? Does that include, therefore, the sort of our insignificance? You know, when you're looking up at the stars, and therefore we're just, we're a dot on a planet.
Yeah. Well, I said to somebody today that the universe doesn't care about my feelings, and it's true. Because the universe doesn't know I exist. It's not a thing. So
yeah.
And I like to think about that often when I find myself being mad and yelling expletives at somebody who's cut me off in traffic.
Yeah.
The reality is it's a completely insignificant moment. It does not matter one little bit. In the course of evolution, it will not be noticed. So I like to remind myself sometimes that as much as I want to mean something once I'm gone, it's actually not that important.
Yeah.
I might be important to other people, but at the end of the day, I'm just a speck of dust on a speck of dust flying through infinite space.
Yeah. I like it. I like the stargazing thing.
Yeah, well, it takes a little bit of power out of the things that I can otherwise get stressed about if I label them as just not that important. Now they don't have so much power over me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You've taken their power away. Yeah. I like it.
So does that kind of in a weird, strange Mr. Ryan way sum up spirituality?
I think it does. And the thing is, like, there's no right or wrong. It's yours. That's the thing. And of 100 people that listen to that, maybe 2, 4, 6, 20 will identify and the others won't. And that doesn't matter, because hopefully it's just giving them an idea to go, well, that's his, what's mine, and they may start that journey of looking for it if they don't already have it.
And I think that's a really important point to make with other things as well, is that we seem to be in this strange time in history where if you don't think the same way I do, you're wrong, so you're cancelled.
Yeah, you're right.
I think, like, I have some really colorful words that I would like to use to describe that, but I don't want to offend anybody with my language.
That's okay. So, I don't have parental advisory on the podcast, so I'm just going to find a button.
Yeah. I'll keep it as clean as I can.
Yeah.
The reality for me is that the only way we've ever figured anything out in history is by sitting down, sharing ideas, having a debate, having a difference of opinion, finding that just because you are talking to somebody that has a different opinion than you doesn't mean they're right or wrong, doesn't mean you're right or wrong. You're just your thoughts are what they are. And if you take the time to have some healthy discourse with somebody, even if they disagree with you, you often find that you meet somewhere in the middle. So you actually probably agree about more things than you disagree. But we tend to have this default of focusing on the one little piece that we disagree with, and then want to not have a discussion at all because you're wrong. That's it. Full stop. No more. We're done here.
Yeah.
But then we limit ourselves, because say you and I are having a discussion. You have a 180-degree view on a topic. If I actually listen to the way you describe your thoughts, and then I'm now forced to really refine my opinion to get my point across. So my opinion actually gets better
Yeah.
described and
Yeah.
has a better, more stable foundation, which is a good thing because I've evolved a little bit, or I've learned that you've got a perspective that I hadn't thought of. Now I've learned something. Maybe I realize I am actually wrong, and there lies the importance of not being married to your ideas. You have to be willing to go, geez, I actually had that completely wrong.
Yeah.
This guy has opened up a perspective I hadn't thought of. Now together, both our minds can take that new information and go in a different direction. But if you shut that down, stop, we're finished. Now it goes nowhere. Now we're just hitting our heads on a wall.
You're absolutely right. I heard someone put that nicely on a podcast. I can't remember who it was. He said, strong convictions loosely held. So yes, believe strongly in whatever it is you believe in, but don't hold on to it so tightly that you can't allow someone else to influence that either way. And if they do, let it go.
Yeah. Because if you are, like me, a speck of dust on a speck of dust in infinite space, then who are you to think that your opinion is so important?
I think also part of you know the way you described it, this issue is the way we have kind of stopped listening to understand, and we're just listening to respond.
Waiting for our time to talk.
Yeah, exactly. How many conversations have you had where instead of actually listening to what you're saying, someone's just waiting to tell you their version of what you've just said, and like you said, it ends up there's actually no growth.
No. And the classic scenario of that happening is when you'll ask somebody a question, they'll start talking and they'll get halfway through their response and go, oh, what was the question? Because they hadn't actually listened to the question at all.
Yeah.
They had already decided in their mind what they wanted to say. And once you stopped, okay, my turn. Wow.
Yeah.
Here it all comes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right.
It's important. It's important to take that time to experience different opinions.
It's like reading
for some reason people don't like it anymore.
What's that about? It's like reading a book, right? You know, the more books you read, the smarter you get, because you've got all these different perspectives by all these smart people that have written those books, you know, and I'm beginning to realize how much I haven't read in the early parts of my life, and now I'm playing catch up. And it's the same.
It's very humbling too when you read a book by someone who's supremely intelligent and you have to read the same paragraph a dozen times to even have any idea what the hell they're talking about. I have no idea what this person is trying to say to me. I don't know what any of these words are. Google, define this word for me. Don't know what it means.
It's humbling.
Exactly. But there's growth in that, because now here's a word that you've just learned that you didn't know before, that's available to you in your own conversation. So you understand yourself a little bit more, you understand the other person's opinion a little bit more.
And on it goes.
I mean, the fact that we've come up with a term for it, cancel culture, tells me that it's a problem. As soon as you have to label something with a new term, it's just like now we have a new word for taking a photo of your own butt. What, like a Belfie? Like I heard that the other day and I thought, what are we living in here? Like, talk about the nutrition that you feed into your brain. I mean, there's infinite numbers of Belfies that you can feed into your psyche. And if that's the nutrition that you're taking in, you're actually missing out on some of the amazing things that are a part of being a human being in this time in history. As much as we've been having a really rough time, if you look at, like, if each person does their self-audit and looks back over their life so far, regardless of their age, they'll be able to find things that in the moment seemed insurmountable. when I was trying to get sober, I could not believe that it was possible. It was because it was hard. It was really hard. Probably one of the harder things I've had to do. So now, if you think about that in the context of where we are now, and understand that there's times in the past where you've shown massive resilience and the ability to overcome things that are hard, you can find some comfort in the fact that although this is a really hard time, there's a pretty good chance that we'll work it out. What resources do you have? What skills do you have? What resources do the people around you have that you can share? Like basic level of a tribal community like we used to live in, where you had 50 or 100 or 150 people or whatever in your tribe, and everybody had their own unique skills that they brought to the group, which is kind of where the PH360 for me, that stuff comes from. You know, we're sort of identified as, here's our skills and here's the way we see things because of our biology and our genetics and the way we're made up.
Yeah.
If we get into our communities on a micro level and start to identify where we have skills and resources that we can share, then on the macro, things start to play out a little bit easier. The anxiety comes down a little bit, because now we don't feel like we're suffering through this alone, because we've shared the burden and we're pooling the resources. And resources don't necessarily have to be money. They don't necessarily have to be material things. They can be time to have a conversation like this. To me, this is a resource. I'm getting to share, and I'm getting, like, there's an energy transfer. That's a resource to me. So it can be a lot of nuanced things, but it's important that we do that.
Yeah, you're right. And with that sort of sense of community is disappearing fast, isn't it? There's less and less of those communities around that sort of support and nurture each other. We don't kind of live in that same way anymore. And even the social settings, you know, clubs and organizations, the sporting ones out there, but you know, there aren't that many others that sort of are there to help and support in the way that used to be the case. And I think they play a powerful part. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I've got a friend of mine was putting some posts on Facebook the other day of some of our old sports teams, and like we're kids like 10, 11, that sort of age, and there's a whole bunch of us looking at these photos going, man, you know, I've got some really fond memories of that.
Yeah.
And it's on a real basic level, that was a tribal situation.
Yeah.
You know, we all dress the same, like often people in tribes do. They'll dress similarly. We all had this one singular goal that we were all striving for. We all had different skills and resources that we brought to the team. That's why in a sports team you often have forwards, midfields, and backs, because everybody's got a different set of skills. We're physiologically designed for a different part of the game.
Yeah.
So if you explode that out to not a sports team, now it's a community, it's the same thing.
It is. Yep.
We still have a goal of, I mean, our brain's singular goal is that we survive. That's the only goal that it has. And ideally, I'd like all the people around me to survive as well. So I guess in that sense, there is a singular goal.
Yeah.
And the way that happens is by pooling of resources, propping people up when they can't hold themselves up on a real basic level. It's in some ways, I think it's where sort of society has gone, where the importance of, I don't know if status is the right, maybe it is to a degree, it's status, maybe that's part of it. There's a real focus on what car do I drive, how big's my boat, where do I live, what's my house, all these sorts of things. And and how much money do I earn, all those sorts of things. If that's our primary focus, then when the chaos comes, which it inevitably does, then all that gets put under pressure. And it's one of the hardest things to maintain in this sort of scenario, where now we're in a situation where we can't earn, but we've set ourselves an environment by which X amount of dollars needs to be available before the day even starts. There's a cost, and there's a cost to everything.
Yeah.
But if the primary focus was to support community, to develop ourselves personally so that we can be productive and meaningful members of community, and and earning the living almost be the byproduct, then where the pressure sits is different. And when the chaos comes, our reaction to it is different.
I like that. You're right. It's a hard
another
one. Sorry.
It's another one of my half-baked thoughts. I don't
well,
which I had a few of last time as well.
It's a hard one to shift, isn't it? It's not something you can, you can shift it individually, but then you put yourself on the outside of what mainstream society seems to be focusing on, and you're a bit of an outlier, rather than someone who's actually finding the right balance and shifting those priorities a little bit.
Absolutely, which is why I like chaos, because like I said at the start, people often don't make change until they're forced to. So this sort of situation, like even my wife and I had the same discussion during the first lockdown, actually.
Right.
That okay, we don't really know where this is going to go. There are already people that are losing jobs, which is horrible. I was in the process of changing jobs, and the job I was going to evaporated.
Right.
So I had, fortunately, only 5 weeks without a job, but I didn't know it was only going to be 5 weeks. In the moment, I didn't know how long it was going to be. So we were forced to look at all the places we were bleeding money and decide what we were willing to sacrifice and what we weren't.
Right.
So again, taking a little bit of self-audit, what things do we have that we're not willing to let go? What things do we have that we are?
Yeah.
And I think when you do that, I think it'll be the same for most everybody. If you actually go through all the things that you own, there's probably a lot of things that you could do without.
Yeah.
So maybe now is a time
to do the same.
To do that.
Yeah.
If money is a problem, if there's some anxiety or concern about being able to provide financially, maybe this is a time where you have to start looking at the things that need to be put down. That the mental, emotional, financial loads that you're carrying that you don't have to.
Yeah. I think that's a great suggestion. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I've done a light version of that since we've been locked down. I've got one of these VoIP phones, which it's basically, your connection's only there if the internet's there.
Yeah.
But it never got used. I mean, I did it so that I had a landline, and I've just, so why do I need to spend that every month when I don't need it? Everything's done on the mobile, so take that principle to a few other areas of a business, and who knows how tight you can get those expenses.
Yeah. And I think that experiment of looking at the things that you're willing to sacrifice and the things that you aren't, it's really important to do that in a lot of areas. And the thing that I liked the most about being in lockdown, because if I was honest, I enjoyed it in a lot of ways, because it gave me a really good amount of time and to do my self audit, to really
Right.
figure out the things that are important, to
Mm.
really connect with my kids and understand how they're seeing what's happening. Talk to my wife about how she sees what's happening. Where's her anxieties? What's she concerned about?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
when we're able to, the simple pleasures like going to the beach, or going, when we could, go out in the boat, put a line in the water,
Mm.
and catch some fish. I mean, there's a classic resource. If you're short of money, and short of food, we're really lucky to be in a country that has a pretty
Pretty good
pretty
fishery.
good source of
Yeah. Yeah.
recreational fishery. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there's resources available,
Mm.
um,
Mm.
but taking that time to identify what's important to you, and what's really meaningful. Like, identify what's meaningful and double down on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put down the things that we're just carrying around with us because they're
Mm.
shiny.
Mm. Yeah. 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 Absolutely. This is good.
Shiny things are nice, but they're not always fulfilling.
No, they're not, and we get used to them, so they start to kind of lose their novelty and their power and their interest because they become the norm, don't they?
Well, yeah, and your neighbor gets a shinier one, so
Yeah.
now yours isn't so shiny anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Keeping up with the Joneses. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I've fallen prey to that,
Mm.
and I'm sure I will again. But the more you audit yourself and have your thought being conscious, then the more you can try and filter that. At least if you do make a decision, at least it's one you made with all the information and hopefully the right intention for the moment. But also,
Yeah.
you can make a decision in this moment right now, and then revisit that decision in 6 months, a year, 2 years
Mm.
time,
Mm.
and now that decision doesn't sit as well with you. So, whatever you did based on that decision, be prepared
Yeah.
to go in another direction. Again, don't be married to that idea.
Yeah. 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 This is good. I think we could probably carry on for another 3 hours, but I think
Yeah,
that might not
probably.
necessarily work for other
Th-
responsibilities that we have.
This is not the Joe Rogan experience just yet.
No, no, no. This is the short version.
Yeah,
Having
yeah,
said that, I've got a nice little. I reckon my notes could turn into like a model, as in some sort of delivery model to help guide people through the mental struggles. And so I really appreciate your time because it's been enlightening and enjoyable and a lot of fun because it's been good to connect. It's
yeah.
been good to pick your brains, and I really appreciate your openness and vulnerability. So thank you.
Well, the interesting thing about being open, and it's something that I think is a really important thing for us as people in the health space, that and we talked about it a little bit last time we spoke. If people want to go back and find that one, that in order for, like, when we're trying to get new clients to come and train with us, what we're selling is us. We are our product. So if we take the time to really, again, self audit, I know I've hashtag self audit, I've probably said that 50 times already,
That's
but
okay.
it's important. If we take the time to really identify our own personal story and find a way, even if in a small way, if you don't feel comfortable oversharing like I do constantly, share your story to give people something that they can relate to, then you create some safe space for them to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
clients connect to us on a level where they feel safe over a period of time. That develops, and then you have a client for life.
Absolutely, that's beautiful, and really, really good advice. So a great note to end on. Thank you. Great to talk, Stefan. Great to see you, and let's hope there's a version 3 in the not too distant future.
4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Can I can I just add, like, it's probably fairly clear to most people that I'm a fairly open book. If anybody has any questions on a personal level that they don't feel comfortable speaking to somebody else, maybe talking to somebody who isn't in their immediate circle is sometimes easier, because you can have that conversation, step out, maybe not see that person again. If anybody has any concerns, anything that they want to get some clarification on with me, feel free to find me. Nothing that you can ask is going to offend me. Not an issue. And one last thing from me is that I just want to thank you, Rich, because when I got into the fitness industry, having been somebody who fitness had not come to naturally, there was certainly a bit of a identity crisis, or a feeling that I didn't deserve to be there. And you, amongst a bunch of other people, made me feel really comfortable and welcome really early in the piece. So that's credit to you. So I wanted to make sure that I said that.
Thank you, Stefan. I appreciate that. Really, really grateful for you again today, your time and your vulnerability. I'll grab some details from you, put them in the show notes. So if somebody is looking to reach out, they can find you the quickest way.
Yep, no worries.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much, mate. Appreciate your time.
Bye.